went pretty well, and we appreciate your getting that word out there. As a positive note, there were 0 arrests at Kinnick Stadium Saturday, so off to a good start there. This week, 3:36 on ABC. Game day is there. Obviously, everyone knows that. For media that in the past have requested a credential to go cover it, to cover game day, they are not providing any credentials this year for that. So if you go early to go to game day, there are no credentials, no parking for that. You're on your own. So with that, we'll get right to Coach, and then also starting next week, next Tuesday, we'll move back to the 1:45 start time for Coach. For the rest of the season, 1:45 instead of 2 o'clock. All right, thank you.
So that's less arrests than fumbles we had. That's not good. Good afternoon. Obviously, good to see everybody, and just make a couple of remarks about last week, and then we'll move on to this Saturday. So, certainly it was good to come off the field 1-0 and get a win against a good team, quality opponent. And as I said the other day, there's nothing easy about winning football games. So just, happy for our players, and, we've got a lot of work to do now. But I think the big thing is, again, I thought our guys played with good effort out there. Certainly we have a lot of things to correct. And that's what we're facing right now, trying to do a good job there. As I said, our veterans did a really good job of leading our football team the other day, and that's going to be imperative if we're going to be a good football team. And I thought the younger guys, did a solid job out there. There are a lot of things that we're going to have to work on and try to improve, but it was a good first time out for a lot of those guys, and first time for a lot of our players playing in front of fans. And somebody reminded me this morning, Torrey Taylor, just to mention a guy who's a good football player and had a good season last year. First time he's played in front of a crowd. So some little things that you kind of forget about. And the big thing right now is just seeing how much we can do to improve in some areas, make corrections from the game Saturday. And like always, it's always a race against time. Every team faces that, and that's one of the challenges that we're working through right now, besides getting ready for a top quality opponent. And just a quick aside too, just happy for Riley Moss. He's gotten a lot of nice honors as a result of his effort last week, and he'd be the first to say it was a really good team effort, but certainly he had an outstanding game, and just really happy for him. So, just shifting gears now, looking forward to the Iowa State game. First of all, just, general commentary. It's I think a great thing for our entire state. It's a game that's been, really heated, and a great rivalry through the years for a long time. But, you think about what it is right now. First of all, it's a tough contest for the people involved, the players and coaches, tough preparations, I'm sure, on both sides. I know it is at this end. But, you just think about this fact our state, 3 million plus, has 2 top quality Power 5 programs. Throw UNI in there, and then a lot of good Division II and Division III programs as well. It's really kind of amazing. So I don't know if there's another state that can say that, and I think it's all good for everybody. And I've always thought this series is a good thing for our state, just in general. This is one week where, people in the state, a lot of people are talking about football, which is a good thing for college football fans, certainly. When it comes to Iowa State, they're not only a talented team, but very experienced. And on top of that, really well coached. Certainly since Coach Campbell and his staff have gotten into to Ames, they've just done a wonderful job building a great program, and I think we've all witnessed that last year and over the years, but certainly last year, and they're off to a good start right now. So as I said, they've got really experienced players. They got all the right players at the critical positions. A lot of guys with very deserved honors, so it's going to be a big challenge for us. Offensively, you can start wherever you want to start. They've got a running back that had close to 1,600 yards last year. He's an outstanding football player. A couple of very talented and outstanding tight ends. Veteran offensive line, good group of receivers, and then the quarterback's done a great job for quite a while, and he certainly is, their leader on that offensive team, and they've got a great scheme. So it's a tough preparation for us that way. Defensively, again, it's a very unique preparation. They've played good defense basically once they got settled and got established. They've been playing good defense for quite a while in a conference that maybe that's not as common. And so to me, I think that's really helped separate them. them. Their guys play extremely hard. It's a unique preparation, as I mentioned. And they've got a lot of veterans there, and that outside linebacker is a tremendous player. The safety is an outstanding player, but they got a lot of other guys that do a great job as well. So, again, just a challenge there. And then special teams, really well coached, play hard, very, very productive. So really, it's just, it's a big challenge for us right now. All you got to do is look at the last 3 times that we've played. And, they've all been basically one-possession games that went right down to the wire. I know a couple of years ago it ended up being 10 points, but we had to score late to, at that point it was a 3-point game, I believe. So, it's a tough football team that we're playing, and big challenge for us. Our captains are the same guys. We have Tyler Linderbaum, Jack Kerner, Matt Hankins, and Spencer Petras will lead us out there. Collarshot's still out, and we'll see what it looks like next week or the week after, but he's still out. Other than that, we're, I think, in pretty good shape. Kid captain, last note here, our kid captain this week is CeCe Hoover, who's an 8-year-old young lady, 8-year-old from Urbandale, and happy that she'll be our kid captain this week. And last thing I'll say, I think it's just great, after a year's hiatus from this, last year's an unusual year, a lot of regards, so it's good to have the series back. I think that's great for the entire state, and certainly be exciting on Saturday. So I'll throw it out for questions.
Talk about Torrey Taylor. He averaged 49 yards a punt. Is that Reggie Roby kind of territory?
It's awfully good. I mean, he did a nice job, and he had a great year last year. Reggie Roby was just one of the most special players I've ever been around. And all you had to do was hear him punt, and you knew he was a little bit different. So, but it's awfully good, and we're certainly glad that Torrey's with us.
I think Kolar is expected to play this week, the tight end. How much of a difference was that watching them without him? And does that mean more Justin Jacobs probably on your end, 4-3?
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, we'll probably, if there's been one shift over the last couple of years, I guess, playing them is just, personnel that they play to. But it's like anybody else. If you have good players, you tend to try to get them on the field as much as possible. And last year they had 3 really good tight ends. So that was a big part of what they did, and they were very successful with it. Just look at the bowl game, and obviously if one of them's out there, that might change their thinking a little bit. But yeah, we expect that, and we expect him to play, for sure. He's an outstanding player.
Kirk, you mentioned it's nice to have this series back. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. Did you miss having this series and miss playing these guys last season?
Well, for about a month and a half, we just missed playing. So that first things first on that one. And we were able to get back up and running. That was the primary emotion was just like, hey, let's get back together here and start working again. So that was the best part. But, last year on a lot of fronts, there's nothing any of us could have done about a lot of things that happened. And you just, take it day by day. And, we all survived and we all did fine. But it's I just think good for, when it comes to our state, this is just a good thing.
This game's a big deal no matter if you're both of your own 2 when you usually play or now ranked in the top 10. Does it have any kind of a different feel knowing that you're both, maybe the signature game in college football on Saturday and you're both at the top, near the top of the stand ranking?
Yeah, when I was just going to say, I can't remember this not being a tough game, but I can go back to the 80s, and there were a couple that weren't so tough. But in the last 22 years, anytime we've lined up, it's been a tough challenge, and I think records have been different during that course of time, certainly, but you just always expect it to be a real battle, and this, I think, will be the same way. And it just so happens right now that both of us have teams that have had some success. The big difference, I think, is that you look at our game from last time, there's a lot of guys on that film in their red uniforms that are still there. A lot of guys in our white uniforms that aren't there, so that's probably the biggest difference. But they've done a great job, and they've got a really good football team right now, and we know we have our hands full. I know that.
Statistically, it wasn't a big game for the wide receivers, but what did you see from them going back and watching film? Could be blocking, getting open, and what's your confidence level in that group heading into this game, where big plays and big performances might be needed?
Yeah, plays come as they do, and sometimes you try to get a guy a ball and that type of thing. There are different ways of doing that, but overall, you play the game to win it, and then just wherever the ball goes is where it goes typically. But I feel good about our receivers. I didn't last January, but I feel good right now, just about what we've seen them do. Excuse me, not only during spring practice, but maybe more so since we got going in August. I think we've seen a lot of growth and development with the guys, and I think we've got a good group right now. So it's a good group. And the one thing about the whole thing offensively, and it's probably true everywhere, is over the course of 12 games, I think we'll know better about where all our strengths and weaknesses are. But yeah, we have total confidence in those guys, and they'll make their share of plays during the course of the year.
Saturday's the 20th anniversary of 9/11. You were supposed to play Iowa State that week 20 years ago. I was wondering if you could recount your memories of that week and the game that it took a while to get that game postponed, and just perhaps the emotion, the chaos, whatever that you remember.
That might be part of the strangest. It was a Tuesday morning, as I recall, and Matt Engelbert asked me to come over to his office. He had the TV on there. So that part is very surreal. And then probably even stranger, we practiced that afternoon because as far as we knew, we had a game. And I'm not sure, I don't know how many people felt like this, but I know at this point now that, I really didn't fully grasp what was taking place and the impact of that whole thing. And so, I remember that, and then obviously the game got postponed at some point. I also remember I ended up in Pittsburgh that weekend, went back and saw a high school game and visited my parents. And, but the magnitude of what took place, how old I was at that point 20 years ago, not sure I grasped it totally. And, how it's all changed all of our lives, not to mention just the tragedy of the whole thing and all the loss. And, so it's a really significant part of our history. And the interesting part, the guys that we coach here, a lot of them weren't born, or a lot of them were, infants at that point. So just the historical perspective of this whole thing is really, it's amazing. But it's changed our country and changed the world.
Remember anything at all about the practice or practices before that game got canceled on a Thursday?
Yeah, and I just, it was a strange feeling because, on one hand, you're trying to focus and concentrate on a game preparation and getting ready for a game. On the other hand, it's one of the most hard to grasp events that's ever happened probably in our country's history, certainly my lifetime. So, it's just a weird combination, a really strange combination.
Jones limped off the other day. How is he doing?
Everybody practiced this morning, so yeah, we're optimistic right now. Everybody worked, yeah. Other than, Shaw, I told you he's out, and some other guys aren't really too deep. Yep.
You noted that there are, a lot of good players who haven't, played in front of fans. Going into what's going to be a ruckus crowd, what goes into the challenge of preparing players to play in a hostile environment who haven't been there before?
That's one more thing that adds to the degree of difficulty. And, to your point, especially coming off last year, we have some guys that played last year, but they don't know what it's like to go on the road in a hostile environment. We have a lot of those in our conference, and then you throw this one in too. This is as loud as any of them. So it's one more thing that really can take you off your game a little bit or throw you off, and you have to concentrate your way through, and it can be impactful. So it's just one more element to deal with in an already tough contest as it sits there. So yeah, it's a challenge.
How do you prepare guys for that?
It's difficult. You pipe music in and all of that, but it's not the same. It's not the same, and you can't duplicate the emotion. And some things, like I say, you do your part, but it's not quite the same. And part of it's just experience. You have to experience it sometimes. And I thought it impacted our opponents the other day a little bit. They helped us a little bit, and so it's one more thing we're going to have to really try to push through. And hopefully there won't be any weather issues to deal with as well. That might be as unusual as you could ever get, but yeah, it's one more thing to deal with.
You talked about Iowa State's defense being unique, the 3-3-5, the star player. How does that affect your game plan schematically on offense?
A lot. It affects everything you do. It's really unique, and again, I think it's one of the, I don't coach there, and not just how I watch from afar, but I think that's one of the reasons they've had this success. That conference overall is not known maybe as much for defense as some of the others. But, you know, one of the first things I think about is the way they play defense, and they do that very well, and that leads to good results a lot of times. And if you can run the ball successfully, which they obviously have done that too, so it's a pretty good combination. They're a disciplined team. They don't hurt themselves with penalties, turnovers. So it's a pretty good combination for winning football games, and I think that's one of the reasons we've seen them be as successful. But it's a really unique preparation. You don't see that much, and it's not the same as last week, but we've had two teams that are both veteran teams, both really a lot of good players and well coached, and tough preparations, tough schemes. So it's, you know, it's another week of that, and that's a challenge.
How do you prepare Spencer for something like that? Is he going to lean more? Is that leaning more on the running game or tight ends? And
yeah, we have to try to put a good plan together. It's going to give us a chance to execute what we think might have a chance, but it's you know, it's not easy. And yeah, we got plenty of film. I mean, the good news is, I mean, we know we can see most of their players on film. You know, we have a good idea who's going to be there. Not always sure where exactly they're going to be or what they're going to do, but they're going to be well coached and they're going to play hard. And but at least you know, you get to tangibly see these guys on film. And we have one game of this year, but a lot of their guys are so veteran that you know, I mean, Rose, it feels like he's been there 10 years, but I know that's not possible. But it feels that way, yeah.
When you were building the program, you had a couple of different roadblocks. I think Antoine Randall would be one, probably Wisconsin being another, and then Iowa State being one beyond that with Dan. And what did it feel like for you when you finally got through and punched through and beat him for the first time? Because I'm sure that was something that people kind of marked against you, at least in the first couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, one of many. And we had a lot of obstacles, certainly, but that's, you know, when we were 1-10 that first year, and that's where we started. So, you know, you just try to build off of that and pretty much focus on what's in front of you. And but yeah, those are things that are certainly talked about, I know, and realized. But the one good thing you mentioned, Wisconsin, the one good thing about getting beaten by them so convincingly, I guess it was week 10 in those days where we played 11. At least we got to look at what it looks like, you know. This is what success looks like on the field, off the field, the whole 9 yards. And, you know, so that's that. And then you always have rivalry type games, although this is a really unusual one when you have two conferences in one state like this. I think that adds to it a little bit. But yeah, those are all things that are significant. And but yeah, bottom line is you want to do better each day, do better than you did yesterday, and hopefully there's going to be a cumulative effect at some point.
What about this one specifically? Because I think it was after you won the Big Ten and you went to the Orange Bowl, you still hadn't beaten them at that point, but then to be able to punch through and get that win.
Yeah, I think more than not beating them was the way we lost that. Well, I mean, either of the last two. The one, you know, their guy made a great play, knocked the ball out after we got a pick. I mean, it was an unbelievable play. And then, you know, we basically collapsed in 2002. But I'm an optimist, right? So I think that helped us 2 weeks down the road at Penn State, you know, because we were able to learn from that and do a better job when we collapsed again. And sometimes you collapse out there, you know, but you still have time to pick yourself up, and that was a takeaway from that game. So, you know, but yeah, that's what you do. You just try to learn from whatever. When things go bad, you know, okay, how can we fix that and how can we do better next time?
That often that you're in the top 10 of the national polls. It's not easy, I guess, is what I should say.
I didn't know we were, first of all, but I swear to God. But right now it doesn't matter. I know that. We won't be if we lose Saturday. I know that. Yeah.
I guess, do you have an appreciation for these types of opportunities? They don't necessarily, they're hard to get where you have you're a number 10 team going on the road against another top 10 team.
Yeah, I mean, rankings mean a lot more October, November. They really mean something in January. But I think the bigger story is that, you know, you have two teams that are arguably, I mean, they are established. They are. There's a reason why they're in the top 10 to start with. And, you know, like I said, you look at every position, and they've got good players that are experienced and know how to play. So, I mean, you know, obviously, goal-wise, we would love to get up into that tier and be there for a while, that type of thing. But right now, it's more about, you know, how can we get ready for a game here at, you know, 3:36 on Saturday, and that's the race we're running right now against a really good team.
Outside of the two turnovers on Saturday, what else were you able to pinpoint as far as areas of improvement offensively that will be focused this week leading up to the game?
Yeah, so I mentioned a negative. A positive was we compared to a year ago, we were a lot better penalty-wise. But it's just a lot of little teaching things on that tape that you try to simulate things in a scrimmage and what have you. It's just still not the same because you really don't know how, especially inexperienced players, are going to react when it is game time, where it really counts and everybody's watching. So I thought just the general demeanor of the guys that haven't played was good, but there's a million things they can work on, and usually they're just fundamental things that you hope guys do a better job this week in practice, being mindful of some little things they can clean up. Then you hope there's a cumulative effect by doing things better, more quality fashion over a series of weeks, and that's how you develop good habits out there and good fundamentals.
Veteran defense, Indiana, I'm speaking of, how much of a confidence booster is that for those younger players that, for the most part, outside of those turnovers, you're able to execute a game plan, and even without those 2 pick sixes, still would have won without them?
Yeah, I mean, we handled a lot of really tough things that they threw at us, and we knew they were going to throw things at us. You just don't know how you're going to handle them, but I thought we handled a lot of things pretty well. Missed a couple, and this one's a different set of circumstances, a different set of challenges, but there are challenges there. Like they just, they've got a system they really believe in. They play it extremely well, and I don't think we're, it's not like we're alike because we're not scheme-wise, but I think there's some parallels in the fact that they believe in playing defense. Like that's important to their program. That's obvious, and they've committed to it, and their players believe in it, and they do a heck of a job, and they have a personality there, and that's, I think, really you got 2 teams that believe in that, and that makes it a real challenge. It'll probably be 48-41 again, one of those deals, but I don't see that coming. I just think it's going to be tough I know from our standpoint, we're going to have to really work hard to move the ball.
You played these guys 2 years ago. Brees Hall had 1 carry and 80 yards. A couple weeks later, he breaks out. He becomes their guy, and now he's really where things start for them on offense. What is it that he does so well to challenge it, along with that veteran offensive line coming in?
Yeah, they're experienced up front. They know how to play. They, probably anything you throw at them, they've handled before. And you include the tight ends in that group too. That's part of their scheme. And then throw in the fact that their quarterback will run by design, and then he can pull it out. And so that gives you a lot of things to worry about defensively. But yeah, he's just an extraordinary player. He's a really good football player, and can do a lot of things that a back his size normally wouldn't be able to do, but he can do them, and he's a big back. So there's really not much that we've seen that he can't do. I don't know how many guys had more yards than him last year in the country, but there couldn't have been a long list of them, that's for sure.
Does seeing a guy like Tyler in practice help your defense prepare for a running back like Brees Hall?
They're different kinds of guys, It's hard to simulate that, but I mean, Tyler's a really good back too. But he's just this guy's big, physical, and can stop, start. He's got good vision, and they use him in the passing game too. So he's just an all-around back, really good player.
Coach, with College Game Day in town, and this is supposed to be one of their best teams ever. Heck, they might even break out their ultra-traditional black uniforms. You've always handled pressure really well. Your team's always handled pressure really well. It seems
not
like
always.
The pressure's really on them this year. How do you think that your team can expose that?
I know Game Day was here last time we played up there, and again, that's great for, I think, just the state of Iowa visibility, so that's a good thing. But all that being said, like I never knew they were there. Like, we get off a bus, we walk in, and you don't see, we miss, the people playing in the games miss all that stuff. So, I mean, we're totally disconnected from that. And, all I know is, and hopefully our players understand, we're going into a really tough environment against a really good football team with a lot of good players at all positions, really. So that's the reality of it all, and that's what we got to focus on. You can't worry about all the circumstances outside. You really can't. And if you do, you're wasting energy and time. Yeah, so that's hopefully everybody will understand that.
I didn't hear him say this, but it's been reported that one of your prominent players said that this is like their Super Bowl, and them being at home, knowing College Game Day is going to be there is a good distraction for them. So does your previous statement mean you would disagree with that?
Well, yeah, I hope he's right, or our player's right, but I doubt it. I can't imagine it's that big. Yeah, it's a big deal. I'm not minimizing game day or any of that stuff, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the game. And my guess is they're going to be totally focused on playing well. That'd be my guess.
Looking at the
There's not a lot of games over there. I'm sorry.
Looking at the defensive line unit, to play as many guys you did for as many snaps as each of them got, what can you say about the maturation process of several of those guys from maybe the midway point of camp to now, where you had that much trust in them to play that many snaps?
As I said prior to our game, I felt good about, we've seen Zach play a lot of football for us, and he's a good player. I felt fairly confident that Noah would play well, that John Wagner would play well, Joe Evans, because those guys have been out there on the field. But the other guys, I was really pleasantly, I don't want to say surprised, but I was pleased with what we saw. Again, it wasn't always pretty, but they were playing hard, and they looked aggressive, and they didn't look like they were timid or playing on eggshells, and that was really good to see. So that's what you hope, but you just never know until they get out there. And same thing with those offensive linemen that hadn't played. I was trying not to think too hard about how little our tackles had played, or one of our guard spots there. So I thought the guys competed, and they did a lot of really good things. And so I think those are all things that we can build off of, hopefully, and keep pushing forward with. Yeah, and that's one thing I've been optimistic about, is that we have a chance to really improve as a football team, hopefully daily and weekly. But that's all talk and rhetoric if you don't make it happen. And that's what we got to do.
Spencer had a couple of pivotal plays, 4th and 2 pass to Charlie Jones, and then that touchdown draw. What goes into those kinds of decisions, and also are those decisions things that you would have done with Spencer a year ago? So how does that speak to his growth?
Yeah, I think we probably still would have called the draw. Although, he ended up 2 guys laying on the ground afterwards. That was a little scary. But, he looked more comfortable, if that's the right word, or just a little bit more at ease. But it really gets down to experience. I think you can't give that to someone or hand it to them. They've got to go out and go through things and work through things, ups and downs. So I think he's hardly feels like he's arrived, but I think he knows he's a better football player, more capable of handling things, and I think he's got a good supporting group around him. So hopefully we can just kind of make this thing all mesh and work well week to week. But every week's going to be a little different set of challenges.
It'll be his first start on the road in a hostile environment, but he is a 4th-year junior. Does that give you some reassurance?
Yeah, it's not the same, but a little bit like when I was talking about Noah and some of those guys on the defensive line. At least, he's been around it and he's seen it. This isn't going to be, where am I? One of those deals. He's witnessed all this stuff, so, but that now he's in control, so it's a little different seat.
When against some of the other Iowa State staffs, it was almost like with recruiting, you went after your guys, they went after their guys, and it just wasn't a lot of crossover. Maybe there were a few players here and there, but it seems like your staff and Iowa State staff have really crossed over a lot more in the last couple of years. Am I seeing things? Is that true? And is it something that you feel like you guys are both identifying a lot of the same players, both in state and in the region?
I think it's pretty fair. Yeah, I think it's pretty fair, and we'll get some of our guys, and they'll get some of their guys. But it's, I think that's fair, and I'm sure we certainly think recruiting in-state, and I think most staffs do think, you want to start at home and then go from there. But, you also have to go other places just because of our lack of population. But, I think, and that's, again, I think one of the reasons it's, to me, amazing that you have 2 teams that are ranked. Because you think about a state of 3 million, I can't imagine there's anything even close to this right now. Maybe there is, but there is no Wisconsin State, Nebraska State, Utah. There is a Utah State. Okay, take that back. But you get the picture. It's just, there's only so many players to go around. So, yeah, it's interesting.
All right. Okay, thank you.
They're not part 5. Utah State. Right.